This is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. Oh, while people are coming in, I gotta check these messages. It'll be okay. Nobody's here right this second. I gotta see what I got going on here. Okay. I'll be a few seconds here. I got shorts on my food delivery. Okay. Anything else? Let me think. Oh, why am I getting all this? I'm getting machine gun with WhatsApp, but it's just the delivery characters. Okay. All right. So what we're going to cover today is I'm going to take you through Daniel 11 into 12, which is, as I'm going to show you, it's not the beast of the false prophet and the talking statue and the mark of the beast and getting your head cut off if you don't take the mark. It's referencing the half a time when half of Jerusalem goes into captivity. And the time at times and half a time is also represented by the 42 months and the 1260 days. But it's allegorically or spiritually represented. It's not literal as the church takes it. And we'll go through all of that. And then we'll start off. We're also going to go through the book of Malachi. And I'm going to kind of sequence it for you, so I think it'll be a lot clearer. Now with Daniel, I don't have everything in Daniel. I know some things, but it's still sealed, so I can tell you some things, but we don't have everything. My guess is Apostle John does, and he has the seven thunders, which got to be helpful. And we're going to discuss Trump, and I don't have much good news on Trump. A lot more information came out. I'll start with Trump. In the meantime, hang on a second. Oh man, they're giving me all today. Yeah, okay. Let me go into the chat real quick before a lot of people come in. And I want to make sure we got sound and picture, and then we got sound and picture, and then I want to put a few posts up in the chat, which is not going to take any real serious time at all. So bear with me while we're fair and let people come in, so we don't have people saying, you know, they missed it, and you know, I don't like just running an empty screen like some people do while people come in, and just let the chat run. They have moderators that watch the chat. I don't have moderators. And I'm just putting my email address up. The false teachers rarely give you any email contact. Some of the great big ones do, because they have a staff to handle it. The others don't pay attention to that. They think the believers are all in deception and they don't really want to hear from them. And the only time they really make contact with them is if somebody gives a large offering. Then they write them and they give them an email address and thank them and, you know, give them all the schmoozing. They're just there for the money and the deception. So that's another way you can tell the false teachers and the false prophets is they don't have an email address, and then you could try writing them. I did that a couple of times, not many, maybe 5 times over many years, and never got one write me back. One guy, I think he's the greatly deceived believer, wrote me back years ago, and then when I wouldn't kowtow to his wacko doctrines, he disfellowshipped himself from me. I don't know if he was an S-bot. I don't think so. He could have been, but I doubt it, because he goes against the grain of what the S-bots say. But his stuff was weird and made no sense, so I tried to help him, and then when he realized I wasn't submitting to his doctrines, he got rid of me. And that's not the sign of somebody walking right with the Lord, So, when you're dealing, this is one of the things I've learned over many years. People, they're not a Satan bot in that they know they're serving unclean spirits, and they know they're hosting unclean spirits and want unclean spirits. That's not, that's not what I'm talking about here. Those are your false teachers and your false believers and your false prophets and your false pastors. No, I'm talking about people that are not in ministry typically, and they commit sin someplace along the line, like a real sin, like, incorrect divorce, fornication, drunk, chasing idols without complete understanding of what they're doing. And then they give place to the devil, because Proverbs 26, I think the first 2 verses, says, a causeless curse shall not come. Well, they have a cause for a curse, or to get, they're giving place to the devil, sin. I mean, real bad sin usually. And then the unclean spirits make them think they're special believers. Okay? They don't use the scriptures like I do. You'll never see them doing that the way I do it, okay? They'll do things like, well, Rahab was a prostitute, and she ended up okay, and she was lying, and all that stuff, And, silly things. There was this woman prophet, and she didn't want to be a prophet, but the men didn't step forward, so she told the men it was wrong, but since there was no one to do it, she would step in, and thus you created a doctrine of women prophets. Women can prophesy, like the woman in the temple in the New Testament, the old woman. That's a gift of the Spirit. That's not holding the office. They start talking about the women holding the office, and then the women could hold the office of a teacher, a pastor, evangelist, and on it goes. Okay. Well, some of these people go off too far, the sins, and the Lord, the unclean spirits, I should say, start deceiving them into thinking they're special and giving them special insights. Okay? Not real insights, phony insights. And telling them and showing them things. And then when they play into this for a long enough time, which could be a couple of years or so, or longer, they get an unclean spirit in them. And they don't know they have an unclean spirit in them, like 2 Corinthians 11:4. They have another Jesus, they have another gospel, and they receive another spirit, which is an unclean spirit. And these people don't know it's an unclean spirit. Now, you also have to remember this is by sin. It's not necessarily somebody doesn't understand prophecy correctly, because I don't know who really understands prophecy 100%. I could write a big book what I don't understand in prophecy, you know. But they, it wouldn't be that big a book, but I could do a book or a big website or something. So what they do is, and you know, it's frequent I tell you I don't understand this completely and that kind of thing. So what they do is the unclean spirits would rarely interpret, you know, many scriptures with them, and they suck them in, and then these people think they're special believers. The Lord's doing something special for them. Okay, and they have no good fruit. Their understanding of doctrine is terrible. Their understanding of prophecy is terrible. They usually won't go to the churches or the congregations avidly, but they will pop in and out. They don't see a problem there. You know, they're lost. Okay. Now, it might be that they're getting taught a very bad lesson and they may snap out of it. This is likely. Lord's letting them learn a lesson. And then hopefully one day they wake up and they realize where they went off, and then they won't do it again. But sometimes they're just lost. They're not going to get around it, you know. So they think they're special believers. And they'll start with, a lot of them will start with dreams. Now, they won't have a special dream every, 3 years or something like that, you know. They'll have, 3 or 4 dreams every week, or 6 or 7 a week, because they got an unclean spirit in them. That's how this is working, as I understand it. And they have really crazy dreams about things that get prophetic. And when you watch them, you'll see that they break scriptures. Okay? They'll break divorce scriptures, drunk scriptures, lying scriptures. They speak of Christian lies. They'll misinterpret prophecy for sure, and on down the line, right? And so you could see their fruit stinks, and they start acting on these special, either it's feelings urging from the Holy Spirit, leading, which is really an unclean spirit, leading from the unclean spirit, which they think is the Holy Spirit, or dreams and things like that, getting weird insights, and they, some of them, if the unclean spirits push it hard enough, start thinking they're a biblical character, like they could think they're Enoch or Melchizedek or who knows who, right? But you got to remember their doctrine is always going to stink, because they've become a bad tree hosting another spirit, and they're with another Jesus, and they have another gospel, and good fruit doesn't come from a bad tree. It's Yeshua explained it in absolutes. So you occasionally see this. Generally, if they get on the internet, it's real short-lived. They don't really pursue teaching or anything like that, and they don't know how to deal with the scriptures. So instead, they're dealing with the leading of this unclean spirit and the dreams, or perhaps they might even get a vision, although I don't really ever hear about that. Maybe it happens, but I usually don't. So they're completely confused, bewildered. They may not be lost, they may be learning a lesson, but a lot of times they're lost. So, you read in Matthew 13, with the seed and the sower, the unclean spirit steals the word from their heart, and so that's starting to sound like it's possessing them, but maybe not. And that's something you come across, you know, and I see it in Israel because it's real easy for people in Israel to start, you know, believing there's somebody special in the Bible, and they start operating in it, but nobody else believes them. Okay, like if they did a YouTube channel, they'd have, you know, 3 or 8 followers or something like that, you know, and nobody tends to believe it, and they can't teach Bible with anything resembling correctness. They have no insights in the Bible because the unclean spirits don't, and the unclean spirits only lie and deceive and murder. And they lead this person on and on as a joke. They're enjoying it to see how they could shipwreck this person or use this person to shipwreck others. But generally, these people will be highly ineffective influencing anybody else. So they wind up being isolated. Nobody else understands. I have the truth. I'm the great one. I'm the, you know, this type of thing. And it's sad. And I see, you know, not, you know, there are people in Israel now that are really expecting the beast, the false prophet, the Antichrist, the mark of the beast, and everything to pop up. They're expecting a man of sin to come and speak peace and, you know, all of this stuff, and it's so out of context. And I've spoken to these people, and I present them with counter scriptures, and they just don't have an explanation. They just move away. See, this is a lot of times the unclean spirits are talking to them, or in them, or both, and they're miserable, but they keep clinging to this falseness that they get. It's not easy for everybody to understand what I just said, but it does happen. And the unclean spirits will manifest to them in different ways, you know, the ultimate goal being to inhabit them. And then they could really wreck their lives if the Lord lets them. So we got to bear in mind that some of them may snap out of it. They're not all lost. The unclean spirits are putting a lot of time and attention into this person, and if the person was always lost, why bother? Okay. So people like this do exist. They rarely do anything effective. They just keep to themselves usually. And they think the Lord is doing great things for them. And they get a big head. Okay? And that's a stumbling block, because pride cometh before a fall. So the Lord may let it continue until they learn their lesson, or they could be lost and it's going to continue and they're going to die. Okay, being a Bible-believing site, I'm going to do some praise, and I can't control who joins in and who doesn't join in. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. So we'll cover Trump because that's rather interesting. So what I learned is this: if Trump didn't turn his head slightly at the last minute, the bullet would have hit him in the head, and he would have had an exploded skull, cranium, and he would have probably died or been a vegetable or something. The shooter, now this is a fascinating revelation, what they're coming up with. The building he was on was a shallow, not a high rise, it was I don't know, 20, 30 feet, 40 feet, I don't even think that high. And he climbed up on the roof of the building because there was a ladder conveniently left on the side of the building. Now, let me give you an example of the way police think. Garbage dumpsters, right? So if they move a garbage dumpster on the sidewalk near apartment buildings or offices, and these characters can stand on top of the dumpster and sometimes reach the second floor and open a window or break it and grab the windowsill and climb in and commit a burglary, and then they just walk out the door. Or they could go in and commit a rape or, home invasion or whatever. Generally, it's not that. It's just a burglary. They would try to ring the bell from downstairs or maybe get in the building and ring the bell outside from the hall. Make sure no one's in there and then go do it. At night, when the streets are real quiet, it's better. He's got to work fast because if a patrol car goes by and sees him, well, he's cooked. But what are they going to do to him? They arrest him for standing on a dumpster, or he was attempting to break in. What are they going to do to him today? Nothing. Unless he's carrying a weapon, or maybe he's carrying burglary tools, they could get some sort of a weak case on him and some penalty, but So, when you see a ladder that leads to a roof 125 yards from where an ex-president and the Republican candidate for president is speaking on a podium. I mean, cops know to look for these things. Okay? They know. I mean, and the Secret Service didn't pick up on this? That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So this guy climbed up apparently a few minutes before the shooting, or maybe as little as 2 minutes or something, holding his rifle or slinging it on his shoulder. Now, the rifle apparently was a very sophisticated $12,000 rifle that really isn't an AR-15. It's a long-range sniping tool. It's not a regular infantry weapon. It's big and bulky with a sniping stock or a target shooting stock and stuff like that. And I believe the caliber was .338 Whisper, which is a sniper round. Okay, it's a potent round that will deliver a killing shot, and that's apparently what he was using. Now, these guns could have different calibers, so maybe it wasn't the .338, but probably was. The gun belonged to the father, so he took the father's gun. Okay? This is not a regular gun you want to use if you got to run through the streets and kill terrorists. This is something for sniping or target shooting, but why would a guy buy a target shooting rifle that expensive? It's possible, but it's likely he likes being a survivalist prepper militia type and likes sniper rifles. Okay? Gives a person a sense of power. You can blow somebody's head off at 800 yards or so, or 1,000 yards, without them even knowing what happened until it hits them. So he got up on the roof, climbing the ladder with the rifle. Secret Service didn't see him, they want us to believe. He got up on the roof and then was crawling in a prone position to get a good position. And he had the rifle, and he's, got his aim going, and he squeezed off some shots. In the meantime, people were screaming, he's on the roof, he's got a rifle, for minutes. The local police were requesting permission to shoot the sniper, and they didn't get an answer, or they certainly didn't get a green light. And this went on for minutes. Then, after the sniper shot 5 times, wounded one, killed one, and wounded Trump in the ear, superficial, a Secret Service sniper who miraculously happened to be in position to take a shot on the roof fired and killed the guy. Why didn't he shoot before? It would be extremely atypical for them to leave a roof this close in the direct line of fire to Trump on the podium. Okay, ridiculously stupid that the Secret Service doesn't do that. The last time they had a president injured was Reagan. It's a good 40 years ago. They're good. If they behaved like this all the time, presidents and other dignitaries would be getting wounded and killed a few times a year. Got it? This was 99.99% not an oversight. Okay? It just wasn't. It's too grave of an oversight, okay? You know, if it was 800 yards away and it was a lousy line of sight, okay, maybe. And people might say, well, they couldn't get permission from the building to shut it down or something like that. Well, the building was shut down. The building wasn't occupied. And there was nobody in the building, so the building must have been locked. And as I told you, the Secret Service used to have a special tape they would put on things like a door or a window or something like that. And if you opened up the door, it would rip the tape in such a way you couldn't reapply it. And this tape is probably got holograms by now and stuff like that. It'd be very hard to get your hands on it. So I'm sure they have something like that. They probably covered the door of the building that way. But we don't know what happened. But if they couldn't get control of the building, they probably would have moved Trump's podium so it wasn't in direct line of sight. Or they would have put snipers themselves or Secret Service agents on the rooftop. They could have climbed up the ladder. What are you going to do? Phone them in for trespass? Who would arrest them? Nobody. If the cops tried to arrest the Secret Service agents, they would say, I'm going to arrest you for interfering, and they would. So, the other thing they could do is put snipers in another location so they had a good clear shot of anybody on the roof, which is what they did. But they didn't shoot to stop the shooting. They waited. And then, after the guy shot, to cover everything up nicely, they killed the shooter. Make it look good. So, I think people like Obama would come to the conclusion that, well, we don't have to hire some, ex-military guy to do this, or get a team of people and expose ourselves and spend 20-30 million, and then we got to get rid of them because they know who we are, and there's a trail and this and that. Why bother? Let's just get the Secret Service to leave holes in the security, open windows, open doors, so to speak, and just wait for it to happen. And they did. It almost worked. Now, are they going to continue doing this? Well, if we're looking at Obama, he's an idiot. He might. See, how are you ever going to convict anybody of this? You might get somebody fired, but you're not convicting anybody. I'll be right back. What are you going to convict him of? If you got the shooter alive, he doesn't know what's going on. There's no ties. Yeah. If the Secret Service could not get access to the building, or the roof of the building, or both, they would have seen the ladder up against the building. And they would have moved the ladder someplace far away without stealing it, and that would have stopped it. They didn't do that. So there's a lot of problems with this. And the question we got to cover is now, what is Trump going to do about it? Hang on a second. Trump knows what I just talked about to you, believe me. Okay? Trump knows. All right? He used to have his own private security consultants at Mar-a-Lago when he first left the presidency, along with the Secret Service. I don't know if they're still around. But Trump's remedy now is to hire several security guys that know what they're doing. And tell the Secret Service they got to work with these guys. Now, Obama/Biden are going to tell the Secret Service not to do that. There's a lot of things that they could do. Number one, they could say, okay, Mr. Trump, but we got to vet them. And, you know, we'll give them the forms, they'll fill it out, and we'll run a background investigation on them. Now, a lot of things can happen. Number one, they could say it'll take till November 15th to finish the background investigation. Number two, they could say they failed the background investigation, but it's classified, I can't tell you why. or who knows what. They could just say, we can't have that. They don't know how to work with us. We can't let them mingle in. So Trump can put them on his staff that travels with him and call them anything, you know, election consultants, anything. And just consultants. And they could observe things like they would see the ladder, they would see the guy on the rooftop, and they would yell out to Trump to lay down or something like that. They also would be a sword on the head of the on the neck of the Secret Service if they tried something like this again. Also, if they wrote a report, and there were several of them, maybe independent, you know, they come from 2 different companies or something, and they wrote a report that there was malfeasance, Trump could take that in the form of a complaint or a lawsuit to the Supreme Court against the Biden administration for election tampering or things related to trying to fix an election. After this incident, the Supreme Court would at least hear the case on an emergency basis. And they can make a ruling. Trump can't replace the Secret Service because private security can't stop traffic and all these other things, you know. So the Secret Service is a double-edged sword. It can protect Trump and it can kill Trump. The guys standing on the podium, I don't think are real happy, and I don't think they were really in on him. They came close to getting killed. It's not like you had a real professional shooter there. You see, let's say you had a trained sleeper agent that went to sniper school in China or Iran or something like that. He wouldn't have done what this guy did. He'd climb up to a roof where everybody could see him with a sniper rifle on a ladder and then start shooting. Unless he was a jihadist wanting to get killed and be a martyr, he wouldn't do it. It's a stupid move. It's better to hide someplace, shoot, at a longer distance. Okay? And maybe use a silenced rifle and shoot it from inside a building through a window or something. You know, you could take a pane of glass out. They look for open windows. But you could cut a pane of glass out of a window, put it back with, you know, some Elmer's glue, and then just before you're shooting, take it out, and then take the shot. They can't examine every pane of window everywhere, you know. And the idea is then they can get away. There would be 2. There would be a spotter and a shooter. And they would have an escape route. They would have transportation, and the idea would be to get them out of the immediate area quickly. So if they could traverse as little as a mile, you know, you can't lock down the whole city. If they could get as little as a mile away, the chances of catching them go down probably by 50%. And then if they could get 4 or 5 miles away and not be caught for an hour, the chances of them getting caught go down probably by 80%. Then they would be hid someplace, moved to other places, and then eventually taken out of the country. It'd be really hard to catch them. And that would be their goal. They let a crazy person in there who killed 2 bystanders and could have easily killed Secret Service agents. This guy was not skilled enough. Like somebody that had been a sniper for the Iranian or the Chinese military for 8 or 9 years and had, 20 kills or something like that, that would be careful who he hit and would have done it with 1 shot. Okay? Then the Secret Service agents standing around near Trump maybe wouldn't have been so perturbed, but it's unlikely they were in on it because they let a crazy person who doesn't know how to shoot go up there, and they're standing right around. So it'd be kind of stupid for them to agree to something like this. See, now Biden and maybe Obama and the Biden administration know, and the mucky mucks in the Secret Service know that if Trump wins the election, he's going to come after them hard. Change the bosses of the Secret Service. All the managers and supervisors that were present on that day get relocated to, Idaho, Iowa, Montana, North Dakota. And Trump opens up criminal investigations through the people he plugged into the Justice Department, and these people could get fried. Trump, if he gets in, and prophetically time won't allow, but he would definitely seek revenge against all these enemies that got him convicted of 34 felonies where another person would have got a fine, other criminal cases and stuff like that. He'll go after them. He may or may not get them, but he'll go after them. So they're in deep right now. Trump's a peculiar character. He almost got killed with a bullet to the head. And he didn't freak out. Most people would be walking, most politicians that were old and all that would be walking around like they were in a stupor. And the Secret Service would be holding them by the arms, like, this way, Mr. President, this way, sir, this way, follow me. Every few seconds they'd be telling him what to do. And get him out of there. This guy's running around holding his fist up while he's bleeding, and, So either he's crazy, or he's just built different and doesn't know fear. But I'm sure within 24 or 36 hours it sunk in that this is too much to overlook. And he's got to deal with it or it will happen again. So the best way to deal with it, he needs the Secret Service to go campaigning. Now, if he decided he was not going to hit the campaign trail, just do broadcasts out of Mar-a-Lago and social media. He just hires 25 staff members, which happen to be security experts, and they hang all around Mar-a-Lago. Well, maybe you'd have to hire 35 or 40 with the shifts. Let the Secret Service work on the outer perimeter, and they work the actual house. And he should be able to control things that way, but it would hurt him in the race, and he's not going to go that route. So they may or may not try to reproduce this type of thing where they leave the back door open. I don't know what they'll come up with next. This definitely shot Trump up in the polls, and over the next few days, more and more people are going to realize something was rotten here. It was a rat in the woodpile, and it's going to make Trump even more popular. Elon Musk immediately switched over to Trump. So it's more with Biden, Obama, and the Biden administration. It's not just getting control of the country for another 4 years. It runs deeper. It's knowing Trump's going to come after them with a vengeance. And he'll be the president and they won't, and they're going to be on the receiving end of it. So they're kind of fighting for their life. So it's Trump. Is this going to lead to a civil war? No. If they kill Trump, maybe. But this, no. People will smell a rat, and they'll think this can be fixed, and, it'll be all right. This is the god of a lot of the American patriots, is Trump. They're not looking for God to deliver them. They're looking for Trump to deliver them. Once Trump's in it, he'll shut the Ukraine war down, and he'll be friends with Putin. Putin's endorsing him. Shutting the Ukraine war down and being friends with Putin means you tell Zelensky it's over. You're going to give Putin a big slice of Ukraine, and then we'll protect you, or we're going to stop giving you weapons, and Putin will overrun you and kill you, and maybe your family, and you'll lose all of Ukraine. And then Russia and Trump become friends, and the sanctions get lifted, the seized money gets returned. And Putin comes to the White House, and Trump goes to the Kremlin, and China is left in the lurch. And then Trump just basically tells Iran, hey, I'm going to blow you up if you don't stop it, all this kind of thing. A lot of things can happen with Biden. His dementia could get much worse any day. And then they can't campaign him. They got to just bury him in the White House or Camp David. Now, I told you everything Biden does turns bad, and this was something that I'm pretty sure he knew about, and it turned bad. Obama couldn't give instructions to the Secret Service director. Biden would have to. Was this something the CIA did or something? Nah, CIA. They don't have control of the Secret Service. Secret Service is pretty autonomous. They don't listen to the FBI or NSA or CIA. They listen to the White House. That's about it. The CIA stands for Central Intelligence Agency. What they do predominantly is they collect information from many other American intelligence gathering agencies, which I think is about 18. They include Army intelligence, Navy intelligence, Air Force intelligence, Coast Guard intelligence. The Marines have intelligence now, which a lot of people say is an oxymoron as a joke. NSA, which are more of the computer types for intelligence gathering. Homeland Security, FBI, DEA, probably the IRS. And you know, there's a reconnaissance intelligence agency. I think Nuclear Regulatory Agency might feed intelligence to them. It comes to, I think, 18 agencies, and that intelligence flows into the CIA, and they cross-reference it together. And they also collect some of their own intelligence too, and they get it all cross-referenced, and then they send it to the White House, and they probably issue daily or several times a day briefings on what they know, and send it to the other intelligence agencies that are helping them, so they could all see things more clear. So that's what the CIA really does. The James Bond operatives that they use are normally going to be borrowed from the military. CIA is a funny operation, the way they recruit. There's CIA analysts, like intelligence analysts, and they sit inside Langley, and they get assigned to a certain country or a region or some demographic or something, and they start analyzing all the stuff going on in that region based on the intelligence reports. And then you have what do they call them? Officers, field officers or something. They call them officers in the CIA. And those are the sort of almost James Bondy characters. But when it comes to, combat type people, they normally use military. They do train some of their own people. They send them to, airborne school and commando school and that kind of thing. But I think predominantly they like to use the military. So this thing probably had nothing to do with the CIA or NSA or the military or anything like that. As few people as possible would know about this. So at this point, I don't see any revolution coming. If Trump was actually dead, and there was a lot of weird stories floating around about why this happened, well, then maybe. But this is far from enough of a provocation to bring on something like a civil war. You could forget. I think you could forget that. I don't think you see it. So. I don't know what's next, if they're going to try something again. I don't think they're afraid to try something again because they got control of the White House and they know what's going to happen if Trump gets elected. So I'm rather certain that they're not finished. You know, they're gonna move forward on this. They're going to continue pressuring. Um, So that big shot, number 2 in Hamas, what's his name? Deir, D-E-I-R. We didn't know if he was dead. Netanyahu even came out publicly and did a press release live and on the news and said that we don't know. But now it looks more like he is, and I'll explain. They blew a building up and killed a lot of people, and he was in the building. And Hamas sent a lot of their soldiers to surround the building to make sure Israel doesn't get the body. So they got a lot, like maybe 100 or 200 soldiers around the ruins of the body to stop the Israeli soldiers from digging in the ruins or the rubble and finding his body. Now, I thought Israel's in control, so I imagine they're going to run the soldiers out of there, if they haven't already, and then go looking for the body. So they want to find the body themselves, but, you know, they're saying that this Deir is listening to the news reports and laughing at them, but I don't buy it, because the proper way to do that is to have Deir do a press release live or put it on video, and you know it would definitively end any discrepancy about is this guy alive or dead, but they're not doing that. So I don't know where we're going next with this. The guy is probably dead. What Netanyahu is doing now, it's kind of 50% effective, okay? He's doing targeted assassinations every day, all day long, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Gaza, and he's really hitting Gaza hard, and he's thinking that if he puts the fear of Netanyahu and his IDF on these leaders in Gaza, who are not Muslims, Netanyahu knows they're Satan bots, and so do they. They just impersonate the Muslim stuff. They're not going to want to die, and they don't want their families at risk either, so they have to stay away from their families. And this will wear them down, and they'll start thinking about it's time to throw in the towel and let's negotiate some sort of deal. Otherwise, we're going to wind up getting killed. Now, they found Sinwar's, what they think is the last tunnel he had to get escape. Look, sooner or later they'll find the last tunnel, so this could be it. They're probably telling the truth, the IDF. They usually do. If they don't, if they're not going to tell the truth, they'll usually just keep their mouth shut. So they probably did find what is the last tunnel, so now he has no escape route. So eventually he's going to get bombed into oblivion, and he might get scared and throw the towel in. Or not. I don't know. So his approach Netanyahu's approach doesn't seem to be, let's knock off the leaders and the soldiers will fall into disarray. That doesn't work. They just promote somebody in his place. But let's kill the leaders, and the surviving leaders are going to know they're going to be dead unless they give up. Now, if Iran gets on the phone with them and says, look, you no good, rotten terrorists, lay your life down for the cause, they'll say, what are you, nuts? You've been eating too many pistachio nuts. That's a big crop in Iran. And they won't do it, I don't think. These guys don't believe in the 70 virgins any more than you and I do. So it may come to an end. I don't know. It won't be a serious end, but it could come to an end. Biden says he was sending us the 500-pound bombs, and now I think Biden yesterday or the day before said he wasn't sending those. So I don't think Biden knows what he wants to do. I don't think he knows if he's coming or going. And I don't think Biden is making any decisions. I think for quite a while, maybe a year and a half, or maybe the whole time he's in office, he's not making decisions. He's a loopy. So I don't even know if anybody wants him to make decisions. Why would they? You know, I don't know why they would. We have a prayer request here for SL, Sam Larry, SL, Sam Larry, SL. Prayer request is to pray for healing. Pray for healing for SL. Healing for SL. All right. Let's go into, let me quick check the chat. Let me go into Daniel 11. And we'll go through the latter part of Daniel 11. And this is commonly thought to be the beast and the false prophet, and it's not. And I want to illuminate you to this because it's not hard. Okay? And, you know, the earlier verses, you know, come, you know, it says things in history, I don't know what they mean because the history books are crooked. But out of a branch of, and they contradict each other too, but out of a branch of her roots shall one stand up in his estate, which shall come with an army and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north and shall deal against them and shall prevail, and shall also carry captives into Egypt their gods with their princes and with their precious vessels of silver and gold. And, you know, when did this happen and with who? But let's go down into the 20s, Daniel 11, 20 something, I guess, and I'll show you where we pick it up and we can get into it. I'm trying to figure out where to pick this up so you know who it is. Hold on. Well, this is kind of where we start. Let's just jump in. Daniel 11:21. And in his estate shall stand up a vile person to whom a person. Okay, now the word for person is bitzah, that's vile. So the word person doesn't appear, it just says a vile person. But it's, well, I guess the implication is a contemptible, scornful person. So it's referencing a person, so they wrote the word person. To whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom. But in that word is interesting, Malkut, which means royalty. Could maybe be stretched to kingdom. But he shall come in peace, peaceably, and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. And now obtain the kingdom with flatteries is hardly take the mark or I'm going to cut your head off. You can't buy and sell. There's inconsistency there with that, okay? And with the arms of a flood shall they be overflown from before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant. Well, that's not Yeshua, okay? Now, the prince of the covenant, so that means there's a temple. This is easily discerned here from Daniel 9, I think 26. Wait a minute, Daniel 9, not 10. 9, probably 26. 25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the anointed prince, that would be David shall never lack a man to sit on the throne, so he would be from the line of David, shall be 7, let's see what they did to butcher this up. Sheva is 7, and weeks is Shavua, period of 7. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the anointed prince shall be, okay, so they never, it's not talking about Yeshua. They use the word Mashiach in here, which they translate Messiah. It really means anointed. But there was no commandment to restore and build Jerusalem unto Yeshua. When did that ever happen? And why are we calling Yeshua a prince when he's a king? See, it's not Yeshua. Shall be 7, oh, and the time frame mess up, so I'm just going to forget about it. They don't get the times right. And 62, and the streets shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. And after 62 weeks shall the anointed be cut off, but not for himself, but the people. That's the anointed prince gets cut off. Okay, so back to Daniel 11. I don't know, 23, something like that. Let's see where I'm at. See, they got the whole church world thinking that's Yeshua. It makes no sense. They would tell you, oh, he was cut off but not for himself, 2,000 years ago. Yeah, but when were they building streets to his name and all that, And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. He shall enter peaceably even upon the fattest places of the province. And what province is that? Maybe Jerusalem? I don't know. And he shall do that which his fathers have not done. So we could say, oh, he was Jewish. Well, he could have also been some other religion. Nor his fathers' fathers. He shall scatter among them the prey and spoil and riches, and he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds, even for a time. That takes times and half a time. And he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south, which normally would be Yemen, but I wouldn't think Saudi Arabia, but it is to the south also. With the king of the south with a great army, and king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army, but shall not stand, for they shall forecast devices against them. Sounds like, what's devices? Thoughts, witchcraft, I'm thinking. Yea, they that feed of the portion of his meat shall destroy him, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. So it sounds like he has a civil war. And both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief or evil, you could say, and they shall speak lies at one table, but it shall not prosper. For yet the end, speaking the end of the age, shall be at the time appointed. Then shall he return into his land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant. That's Kadosh Brit, holy covenant, And he shall do, the word exploits is added in, and it says he shall do, and return to his own land. But doesn't tell us what his own land is. At the time appointed, he shall return and come toward the south, but it shall not be as the former, for as or as the latter. For the ships of Shittim, and that could be Shittim, it could be Cyprus, shall come against him, therefore he shall be grieved in return and have indignation or anger against the holy covenant. As so shall he do, he shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant, and arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strange, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination and make it desolate. Well, we've covered that, and that's your, approaching the end of the great day of the Lord. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall be corrupt. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries, but the people that do know their God shall be strong and do. And they that understand among the people among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, and by captivity, and by spoil many days, not many years. So, while you'll have everlasting life, you could still die. Now, when they shall fall, they shall be given or helped with a little help. And the word for little is miat, little, miat, little by little, help. Let's check the word for help. Aser, comforting or help. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword, and by the flame, and by captivity, and by spoil many days. But many days, the word many is added in, it just says days. So this is the church twisting it, adding the word many, it's not there. It's just the word days, which would be yomim, yom is day. Now when they shall fall, they shall be holpen with a little help, but many shall cleave to them with flatteries. Well, we know about that. And some of them of understanding shall fall to try them, and to purge, and to make them white, even to the time of the end. So understanding shall fall to try them, and to purge, and to make them white. Even that would mean make their garments white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. And the king shall do according to his will. And he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that is determined shall be done. Neither shall he regard the God of his father, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. Now you're going to be thinking, oh, this is the beast, but wait. First of all, the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women. Okay. The beast doesn't have fathers. He's, I believe he's something different, okay? Nor the desire of women. Well, it has no desire for women. That doesn't make him LGBT. Nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all gods. But, okay. But in his estate, shall he honor the God of forces, Now I'm on verse 38 of Daniel 11. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces and a God from whom his fathers didn't know. So we covered that. he'll honor this god with gold and silver and precious stones and pleasant things. So he's not honoring this god by making a statue to him and cutting people's head off who don't worship it or take the mark and that kind of thing. It's taking the mark that gets the head cut off. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange god, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many. So it's not the whole one world order here, it's many, and shall divide the land for gain. Now that word for land is not ha'eretz, it's Adamah, which is the ground, the earth, so it's not specific to Israel at all. So he's worshiping a god, which is probably the beast. And at the time of the end shall the king of the south, which is, could be Yemen, it could be Saudi Arabia, it could be Edom, which is northwest Saudi Arabia, probably Yemen. And the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over them. Okay. He shall enter into the glorious land, that's Israel, we know that happens. The word there for land is 776, Strong's number. It's Eretz, means the land of Israel. Usually, doesn't have to, but probably does. And many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom, Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. So Moab and Ammon is Jordan, and likely Moab as well. And Edom could, some historians say it's in Jordan, some say it's in northwestern Saudi Arabia. He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape, but he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps. But tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him, therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy and utterly to take away many. So he's not doing so great. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palaces between the seas and in the glorious holy mountain, yet he shall come to his end and none shall help him. So he plants his tabernacles, and those are, tents, dwelling places, tents of his palace. So the kings and the generals would have a really big tent that had elaborate furniture, would have poles to keep it up, and they had carpets so they didn't walk on the dirt, and all of that. So that's probably what it's talking about. Between the seas, so it could be between the Dead Sea and the Sea of Galilee, in the glorious mountain, which would be Mount Zion. So he's not exactly inhabiting the temple at all, and none shall help him, but yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. Okay, so this is not the beast and the false prophet. He comes to his end. It doesn't say he gets thrown into the lake of fire. Okay? Now, we'll go to 12, which is a continuum, Daniel 12. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time, and at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. Now this is Michael leaves the temple, and then he stands on the Mount of Olives. It opens up, and I'll show you that in a little bit. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. That's not in Daniel, that's in Ezekiel 8 to 11. Let me try to see how best explain this to you so you understand what is going on here. Okay. I'm gonna make some more tomato juice while I talk to you. So what is going on here? This is the attack that comes on the great day of the Lord. Of course, this is the great falling away. This is Gog and Magog. This is Ezekiel 38:39. This is also Zechariah 14. And it's also Ezekiel chapters 8 to 11. Now, the churches teach Ezekiel 38:39, and they move it out of time context to make you think it's now, which is rather absurd. Oh, and it's also the book of Joel. Okay. And the great day of the Lord is the end of the second 70 in Daniel 9:24, which the church was mean enough to call 70 weeks when the text in every Hebrew manuscript says 70, which means there's two 70-year periods for Israel. The first 70-year period was the Babylonian captivity. The second 70-year period is also going to be 70 years like the first one. And this is my first ingredient, Tabasco. And the second 70 is a 70-year period, and this is going to start with redemption, with the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds like the lightning from the east to the west. That's when redemption becomes, because we become changed when we see him. When you see him, you shall be like him, 1 John 3:2. This is, of course, not dealt with by the church. Next ingredient. This is not dealt with by the church correctly at all. And they just want you to think that this is the Great Tribulation, because they want you to think that the tribulation comes on Israel, because they want you to further think that the church is up in heaven during this time, which is the theater of the absurd. But they are the theater of the absurd. And the church people don't know this. And they buy into it. So we're going to see the abomination of desolation is the image that provoketh to jealousy, which is set up in the northern gate between the inner and outer courtyards of the next temple, which comes down from heaven, which is not New Jerusalem, and it precedes New Jerusalem, and it's the house not made with hands, human hands. And this is so foreign from the church of the gospel, it's not even funny. The church has a completely different gospel than the Bible. So I'm trying to think how to put this together for you better. I don't think there's a lot of better I can do. Okay. So now we're in Daniel 12:1. And at that time shall Michael, who is the glory of God of Israel, stand up for the great prince, the great prince, that's him, which standeth for the children of thy people, that's the children of Israel. There shall be a time of trouble such as never was, since there was a nation, even to that same time, and at that time thy people shall be delivered. And the word for delivered is not Yesha or Yeshua, which means salvation, or salvation in modern, more normal English, but I would say, salvation, which is making up a word, but this is malat, which means escape. Everyone that shall be found written in the book of life, of course, and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Now that doesn't say, and at that time many that sleep in the earth shall awake. It didn't say that, did it? No. It doesn't say that. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament. Arise, shine, your light has come, right? And they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. But thou, O Daniel, now this is not so much a continuum anymore. It's just thoughts that he's, or concepts the Lord wants us to have. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end of the age. At the end of the age, which is like now, the book won't be sealed anymore. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Knowledge of what? How to repair a car, or, it's medical knowledge. No, it's knowledge of the Bible. If you reject knowledge, I will reject you. It's speaking of knowledge of the Bible, not mechanics or quantum physics or computer science or any of that. Okay. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood other two, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, well, that's Yeshua, who's walking on water, and Yeshua walked on water in the New Testament days so that people would understand this is him. And the ones on one side of the river, the other, would be, before they came down to earth, Apostle John and Elijah, his brothers. How long shall it be to the end of there's other brothers too. How long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swore by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times and a half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. All the things in Daniel, all the things in the prophecy. The first time Egypt, second time Babylon, third time Rome, fourth time the half time. Half of Jerusalem goes into captivity. In Egypt, they all went to captivity. In Babylon, they all went to captivity. In Rome thing, they all left. Well, there's some of them stayed around different parts, but they left Jerusalem. So it's referencing Jerusalem. And then in the half of time, it's half of Jerusalem that goes into captivity. So the reference point is Jerusalem. That's where the temple is. That's the only city in the world named after Jehovah. Yah, Rushalayim, Yah, name of God, right? And I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my Adonai, what shall be the end of these things? And he said, Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. Well, probably the end of the age, which is any day, right? Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked, the made white doesn't mean you're tan or yellow or some color skin and then you get converted to white. It means you'll be glowing, your clothes will be the white robes that glow, that kind of thing. Or you'll be emanating forth light and it'll be white. Like lightning is white. It's not like a room light, it's white. Many shall be purified and made white and tried. But the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand. And that's why you can't talk sense to the people in the churches. But the wise shall understand. And from the time that the daily sacrifice, it doesn't say sacrifice, it says daily, but that's what it's meaning, shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days, not 1260, 1290. Okay? This is not the time. The time would be 1260 or 42 months. This is a different period of time. Close, but no cigar. no ring when you go on the grid, okay? Blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,335. So you got 1290, and then you got 1335, which is a 45-day difference. And that's so to give you a little insight, from the time that the daily sacrifice is taken away, that would probably be the glory of God of Israel left the temple. I can't guarantee that, but there's also talk of a famine, and they don't have what to give offerings with in the book of Joel too. But probably when the glory of God leaves, but shall be taken away. No, I don't think that's when he's leaving. When the abomination that maketh desolate is set up, that's when the glory of God leaves. So the time from the offering sacrifices stopping and the setup of the abomination, which I'll show you where that is 1,290 days. So it's a little over 3.5 years. Blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1335 days. So when the glory of God leaves, till the end of it is 45 days, and he stands over the Mount of Olives during that time. This I'll show you. But go thou thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of the days. The end of the days is the last day. The end of the age is coming up in a few days, because the next stage has everlasting life, and that happens when Yeshua appears in the clouds. Okay. Now, a lot of this is foreign to the people with the church doctrines, because they don't know what I'm talking about. Yet I happen to be reading it all out of the Bible, don't I? How about that? Okay, so let's take a quick look at Ezekiel 8-11. And then you'll realize what the church is teaching is just nonsense. Okay. And this starts off with Ezekiel in the captivity in Babylon, and God grabs him by a lock of his hair and brings him in visions to Jerusalem. And we pick this up over in, let's say, Ezekiel 8 verse 3. And he put forth the form of a hand, and took me by a lock of my head, and the Spirit lifted me up between the earth and the heaven, and brought me in the visions of God to Jerusalem, the door of the inner gate that looketh towards the north. So it's a gate looking towards the north, where was the seat, and that word is 4186, Moshav. This is not like a throne, this is a dwelling place. It's Moshav. It's like a Moshav, kibbutz, Moshav. It's a dwelling place. They're giving you the word seat because they want you to think it's a throne. That's not exactly what it is. Was the dwelling place of the image, and the word for image is semel. It's a statue or an idol, an image. It's probably a three-dimensional statue. the image of jealousy which provoketh to jealousy. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel was there, Michael, according to the vision I saw in the plain. Then said he unto me, Son of man, lift up thy eyes now the way towards the north. So I lifted up my eyes the way towards the north, and behold, northward at the gate of the altar. The altar was in the inner courtyard. So it's the inner courtyard. It will be. This is the only architectural layout that this matches is Ezekiel's temple, which is not yet here. It does not match Solomon's temple. There was no such connecting gate in the north from the inner and outer courtyard. It doesn't match Herod's temple. And it doesn't match Zerubbabel's temple, which didn't even have walls around it, let alone courtyards. And the glory of God of Israel was never in Herod's temple even for a second, nor Zerubbabel's temple that I know of. And he went into Solomon's temple briefly to anoint it with the glory cloud, and then he left. So it's Ezekiel's temple that he resides in. And that's the house not made with human hands, with hands. So this image of jealousy was in the entry. There's nobody sitting in the holiest of holies holding himself as a god higher than all the other gods. None of that. He said, Furthermore unto me, Son of man, seest thou what they do? Even the great abominations that the house of Israel committeth here, that I should go far off from my sanctuary. But so what they did is they kept doing bad things, as you'll see, to get the glory of God of Israel to leave, so then the attack could come. Because the bad guy, who is not the beast, could not, it's the one we read about in Daniel, could not attack Israel while the glory of God was there. So they had to get the glory of God to leave, and that's why they had them doing all this evil for so long. When he set up the image of jealousy in the gate in the northern side gate between the inner and outer courtyard, that was the last straw. That's when the glory of God leaves. He goes to the Mount of Olives, as you see. And thou shalt see greater abominations. And he brought me to the door of the court, and when I looked, behold, a hole in the wall. And he digs through the wall, and behold, the wicked abominations that they do here. Behold, every form of creeping things and abominable beasts. It could be like the Egyptian beasts they put on the pyramids, with a bird head in a man and fish head in a man, stuff like that. And all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall round about. And there stood before them 70 men of the ancients of the house of these were the 70 elders that are corrupted or something. Or these 70, And in the midst of them stood Jazaniah, and it goes on. We don't ever read of Jazaniah anywhere else. This Jazaniah. And then it goes on in verse 13, and then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was towards the north, and behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz, that's the sun god whose birthday was December 25th, whose mother is Easter. Sound familiar? Huh? Singing Christmas trees, get familiar, huh? Then said he unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations than these. And he brought me unto the inner court of the Lord's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs towards the temple of Jehovah, and their faces towards the east, and they worshiped the sun towards the east. Now, if you were going to worship the sun, would you do it on Thursday or Saturday or perhaps Sunday? How about at 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock on Sunday, huh? And they have a night service at 6 o'clock? It talks about how they're provoking Jehovah to anger. And it says, therefore also I also will deal in fury, mine eyes shall not spare, neither will I have pity, and though they cry in my ears with a loud voice, yet will I not hear them. Now, let's see what happens for real, not what the church narrative is. And now we're in 9:1. And he cried also in my ear with a loud voice, saying, cause them that have charge over the city, these are angels, to draw near, even every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate, which lieth towards the north. Back to the north gate again. But the higher gate is probably the gate that connects the outer courtyard to the outside, probably, I'm guessing, which lieth towards the north, and every man a slaughter weapon in his hand. And one man among them was clothed with linen, with a writer's inkhorn by his side. And they went in and stood beside the brazen altar. So the altar is brass, and it's in the inner courtyard. And the glory of the God of Israel was gone up from the cherub whereupon he was to the threshold of the house, and he called to the man clothed with linen. Now this is the glory God of Israel, Michael, leaving the temple. And he called to the one with the writer's inkhorn by his side, and the Lord said unto him, it's Jehovah, but remember the glory God of Israel has the name Jehovah in him, so he could of course be called Jehovah too. And Jehovah said unto him, go through the midst of the city, Jerusalem, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. So they get a mark. Now the word mark, you know, you go back in time like with Davy Crockett, Daniel Boone, and then said, you know, somebody would buy and sell a wagon or a piece of land, they'd say, put your mark here. That means put your name there. And then on TV shows they'd make an X, but you know, put your name there, okay? Okay, for the ones that are grieving and crying for all these abominations. And to the others he said in my hearing, go you after him through the city, and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have you pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark. And begin at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. Now, it says begin at the sanctuary, okay? It says my sanctuary. No, it doesn't. It says from sanctuary. But it's God's temple. It's not, you know, some tribulation temple that the goofy rabbis built, okay? That's not it. So, the true believers are not getting their head cut off. They're not having to take the mark of the beast. None of that is here. There's no beast. There's no mark of the beast. There's no talking statue. There's no false prophet. And the real believers are being delivered from this. And we'll see more of that in a bit. You probably read in the Bible people having the mark in their forehead in Revelation and stuff. I've never seen a church or a false teacher or ever teach this. Yet here it is, right in your Bible. And when you check the architecture of the other temples, and the fact that the glory of God of Israel was only ever in one temple briefly to anoint it, and that was Solomon's temple. And Solomon's temple had no inner and outer courtyard connected at the north with a gate. So it couldn't be that. Plus, the glory of God of Israel was never really in there to stay. It was just in and out. See? You should be very upset with the church, angry at them, but don't take revenge. Have nothing to do with them. You are under no compulsion to explain why you have nothing to do with them. Just demon toss them if they come around and ask you. Now we're going to jump around. Verse 10 is showing us the glory of God of Israel's throne and him leaving the temple. So like in verse 4, then the glory of the Lord went up from the cherub and stood over the threshold of the house, and the house was filled with the cloud, and the court was full of the brightness of Jehovah's glory. And the sound of the cherubim's wings was heard even to the outer court as the voice of the Almighty God when he spaketh. And it came to pass that when he had commanded the man clothed with linen, saying, take fire from between the wheels, from between the cherubim, that he went in and stood beside the wheels, and the cherub stretched forth his hand from between the cherubim unto the fire that was between the cherubims, and took thereof and put it into the hands of him that was clothed with linen, who took it and went out. And there appeared in the cherubim the form of a man's hand under their wings. And when I looked, behold, the four wheels by the cherubim, one wheel by another, and this is the wheel and then wheel. But let's continue. I'm not going to spend, I want to keep moving. Go to 11, verse 1. Moreover, the Spirit lifted me up and brought me into the east gate by the Lord's house, which looketh eastward. And behold, at the door of the gate, 25 men, among whom I saw, and it names a couple of them. And said he unto me, Son of man, these are the men that devise mischief and give wicked counsel in this city, which say, it is not near, let us build houses. This city is the cauldron, and we shall be the flesh. So they're saying that the big heavy pot, the cauldron, is going to protect them, like armor or something like that. Therefore, thus saith Adonai Jehovah, your slain whom you have laid in the midst of it, they are the flesh, and this city is the cauldron, but I will bring you forth out of the midst of it, out of the midst of the city. They go into captivity. We'll see that in Zechariah 14. But you have feared, you see the falling away here, the great falling away? You see it? It's obvious. You have feared the sword, and I will bring a sword upon you, saith Adonai Jehovah. And I will bring you out of the midst thereof and deliver you into the hand of strangers and will execute judgment among you. They go into captivity, half of Jerusalem, which is the bad ones. You shall fall by the sword, I will judge you in the border of Israel, and you shall know that I am Jehovah. It says, Ani Yehovah. This city shall not be your cauldron, neither shall you be the flesh in the midst thereof. I will judge you in the border of Israel. And you shall know that I am Jehovah, for you have not walked in my statutes, neither have executed my judgment, but have done after the manners of the heathen that are round about you. Let's skip ahead. Verse 23. And the glory of the Lord went up from the midst of the city and stood upon the mountain which is on the east side of the city. That's the Mount of Olives. It's 1/3 of a mile east of the temple area. Okay? And he's the one that stands on the Mount of Olives, the glory of God of Israel, not Yeshua. And he splits it open. We'll keep reading. Afterwards, the Spirit took me up and brought me in a vision by the Spirit of God into Chaldea, that's the Babylon, when we're in the Babylonian captivity, to them of the captivity. Okay. Now, let's get some reinforcement to this, and we'll go to Zechariah 14, and it'll help us understand a little bit more. Verse 1. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh. Now, that's the day of the Lord. This is it. Okay? The great falling away. You saw the falling away, worshiping Tammuz, abominations inside the temple on the walls, you know. Behold, the day of Jehovah cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst cities. So they'll be spoiled, looted. For I will gather all heathen nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled. Now this doesn't, the houses rifled and the women raped, ravished. And this doesn't happen in Zechariah 12. It goes further, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. This doesn't happen in Zechariah 12. Zechariah 12 is Jacob's trouble. Great is Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Then shall Jehovah go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of battle. Well, when did you ever see so far Yeshua fight against the nations in the day of battle? I've never read it. It's the glory of God of Israel. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives. That's the glory of God of Israel, which is before Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof, and the east towards the west, and thereof towards the east and towards the west. It splits open. And there shall be a very great valley, and half of the mountain shall remove towards the north, and half of it towards the south, and you shall flee through the valley. Okay, so the people run away through the valley. Okay. And then in verse 6 we read, and it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark. That's not Zechariah 12, I don't believe. And it shall be one day which shall be known to the Lord, not day nor night, but it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light. And it shall be in that day that living waters shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them towards the former sea and half of them towards the hinder sea in summer and in winter. See, this is the day that you get the new heaven and the new earth. And the Lord shall be king over all the earth in that day. Shall there be one Lord and his name one. All the land shall be turned as a plain. See, it's new heaven and new earth. And it lays it out, and men shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. And this shall be the plague wherewith Jehovah will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. Now, consume away, the word for consume is makak, decay, rot, dissolve. It's not really burned up. It's a plague. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from Jehovah shall be among them, and they shall lay hold every one on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. Well, we see this in Ezekiel 38:39 too. And Judah also shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance. And so shall be the plague of the horse, of the mule, of the camel, the ass, and all the beasts that shall be in these tents as this plague. They're animals. They probably dedicate their animals to their false gods, as a guess. And it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, Jehovah of hosts, of armies, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whosoever will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of armies, even upon them shall be no rain. And the people that have a good experience in stopping the rain are the two witnesses. By then they had a lot of experience. And if the family of Egypt do not go up and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague wherewith Jehovah will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. So the law is very much in effect. You can't keep the Feast of Tabernacles without a temple and a priesthood. And it's of extreme importance. And this is in your Bible, and it contradicts most of the teachings from the church. You should be angry at them. Don't take revenge against them, let the Lord do that. But you shouldn't have anything to do with them. So let's continue. This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. In that day there be upon the bells of the horses holiness unto Jehovah, and the pots in the Lord's house shall be like the bowls before the altar. That's the temple. Yea, every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah shall be holiness unto Jehovah of armies, and all they that sacrifice shall come and take of them and seethe therein, and in that day there shall be no more the Canaanite in the house of the Lord of hosts. See, what the church is teaching is just completely foreign. It's just foreign. All right, let me see what's in the chat. So I was going to do the whole book of Malachi, but let me do just a little of it. Malachi 2. And this is, oh no, hold on. See, in Malachi 2, he tells the children of Israel what's wrong with them. You said also, behold, what a weariness is it, and you have snuffed at it, saith Jehovah of hosts. And you brought that which was torn, and the lame, and the sick. Thus you brought an offering. Should I accept this of your hand, saith the Lord? But cursed be the deceiver which hath in his flock a male, and voweth and sacrifice unto the Lord a corrupt thing. For I am a great king, saith Jehovah of hosts, and my name is dreadful among the heathen. So he's mocking them about how they treat each other, how they bring the lame and the crippled and the defective animals in for sacrifice. It says in verse 8, and if you offer the blind for sacrifice, is it not evil? And if you offer the lame and the sick, is it not evil? Offer it now unto thy governor. Will he be pleased with thee? Or accept thy person, saith Jehovah of hosts. See, he's telling them the things they do wrong. Okay? All right. Let's... in chapter 2 of Malachi, if I get it to rotate, okay. He talks about the priests and the Levites. He says, they're not giving glory to his name, and he's saying he's cursing them. And you shall know that I have sent this commandment unto you, that my covenant might be with Levi, saith the Lord of hosts. My covenant was with him of life and peace, and gave them to him for the fear wherewith he feared me, and was afraid before my name. The law of truth was in his mouth, and lawlessness was not found in his lips. But he walked with me in peace and equity, and did turn many away from lawlessness. For the priest's lips should keep knowledge. Remember, knowledge, you've rejected knowledge, I'll reject you. Or knowledge of what? The word. The priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth. For he is the Malach, the messenger of Jehovah of hosts. Who? The priests, the Kohanim, the descendants of Aaron. The people are supposed to seek the Lord at his mouth. But you departed out of the way. You have caused many to stumble at the law. You have corrupted the covenant of Levi. So did you know he has a covenant with Levi? The priests, the Kohanim, are part of Levi, but they're the part that descended from Aaron, the old high priest. Saith Jehovah of hosts, therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all people, according as you have not kept my ways, but have been partial in the law. Partial means they're handing out unequal weights and measures. The rich people, their friends, their buddies are getting treated one way, the poor another. The strangers, the widows, the orphans getting treated poorly. So it says the people should seek the law at the mouth of the Kohanim, the priest. It also says in Ezekiel 20, I don't know, verse 36 maybe. Let me find it. No, I'll find it. Now this tells you how God operates, and the church never does, and would throw you out of the church if you ever preached what I'm going to read to you out of the Bible, out of your Bible, out of the church's Bible. Ezekiel 20:39. As for you, O house of Israel, thus saith Jehovah Elohim, go you, serve you every one his idols, and hereafter also, if you will not hearken unto me, but pollute you my holy name no more with your gifts and with your idols. For in my holy mountain, that's Mount Zion, which will be rebuilt, where the temple will be, in the mountain of the height of Israel, saith Jehovah, Adonai Jehovah, there shall all the house of Israel call by Israel. It really means all house of Israel. All of them in the land, all of them here in Israel, serve me. There And the word for there is shama, which means there. Someone said, where's the phone book? There, shama. Okay? If they still have phone books. All them in the land serve me. There will I accept them. There will I require your offerings and the first fruits of your oblations with all your holy things. The word for accept is 75:21 in Hebrew, ritzah. And let's see how Strong's flips this word into English. Satisfy a debt, accept, accomplish, affection, approve, consent, delight, have favor. So accept's a little bit of a weak word. Maybe have favor, accept, you're mine, you're a son of God. So if we put this together with Malachi, the teachers of the people would need to be a descendant of Aaron, a Levite, a Cohen, and in Israel, where God accepts them. And he would have to be an Old and New Testament believer, of course. He'd have to be baptized in water and the Holy Spirit. You got me. What can I tell you? Should I not point this out to you and let you run around the internet spending numerous hours looking for good teachers that don't exist? Because of what I just said. They have to be in Israel where he accepts them with favor. Right? They have to be a Kohanim. They have to be baptized in water correctly and baptized by the Holy Spirit. They have to be in fellowship with the Lord. They can't be in sin. They can't be in churchianity. They can't be fostering and helping and promoting another gospel. And that's why you don't find them, because you just keep finding bad trees giving bad fruits. I know a lot of people don't like it when I talk like this, but that's not reason for me to not teach you. Then I'm not doing my job, and I'm leaving you to fall prey for these schmucks that think that the devil is so smart and they're outwitting people. They're outwitting the called that are not chosen. Deceive the very elect if it were possible. It's not possible. And you got me for now. You got to be, I'm telling you, when you put the scriptures together, this is what you get. And I'm not making this stuff up, it's the Bible. The word of the Lord does not go forth from the nations into Israel. Stop thinking that. That's what the church teaches, and by example. It goes forth from Israel. So, what the heck? I come up with great Bible studies, and whenever I do that, I hardly ever get any good offerings, or any offerings at all, except my regular people. So, today we kicked over some sacred cows, church cows. Who cares? Church isn't going to be around but a few more days. That's it. So then we go to Malachi 3. And here we see Elijah and the glory of God of Israel coming suddenly to his temple in verse 1. And then we see who can abide the day of his coming, Elijah. Who's going to stand when he appeareth? And For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a fuller's soap, and he's going to refine and purify. He shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness. So what's he doing? He's going to straighten out the Levites for the sake of the Levites and the people. The offering in righteousness is not that you select the right animal and slaughter it in the right way. Yeah, and that stuff has some value, of course, but it's that the people themselves are just and fair and righteous. The Levites themselves. No favoritism, no corruption, no this, no that. That's bad. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem, so Israel's not yet back yet, be pleasant unto Jehovah as in the day of old, and as in former years, and I will come near to you to judgment. And I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, against adulterers, the false swearers, those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow, and the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith Jehovah of armies. So he gets rid of the bad ones. And we see this in Malachi 4. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud and all that do wickedly. This is not necessarily, or probably not at all, those round about on the right hand and the left, because they're outside of Israel. Okay? The proud and that do wickedly shall be stubble. Remember the two witnesses in Zechariah 12. One of them is referenced, burn them up like stubble. Shall be stubble, and the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith Jehovah of armies, that it should leave them neither root nor branch. So apparently they get burned up on the same day. I guess. The day cometh. It doesn't say that day, it says the day, but could very likely be the same day. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness, that's Yeshua, S-U-N, Shemesh, arise with healing in his extremities. That's the tassels on the outer borders of the garments, like the woman with the issue of blood for 12 years grabbed and got healed. And you shall go forth and grow up. It says you shall go forth and frolic about like calves of the stall, because when you see him, you shall be like him. And it says in John 6:40, believers that look upon him shall have everlasting life. And you become like young again. Probably around 21, 25 in there, I guess. As a guess, I don't know exactly. And you shall tread down the wicked. You're not going to actually be 21 and 25 years old. You'll just look like you were in that age range. But if you're 50 years old, you'll still be 50 years old. You'll just look maybe 22. Okay. And you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this, saith Jehovah of armies. So they're going to be all burned up, and you're going to just walk over the ashes. Remember you the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Israel, with the statutes and judgments. Remember you the law of Moses. That's the same law the church says is done away with. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord, in Joel 2, verse 30-31, we see the sun go dark, the moon turn to blood. And that is probably the same day that the two witnesses are going to appear and go to work. And it's likely the day that Yeshua is going to appear in the clouds for people to see. And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to the fathers, to their fathers, and lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. So I think we could go back to Malachi 3 a little bit, and at the end, Malachi 3. Oh, I think we're okay. So you guys can, so to speak, shoot the messenger, me being the messenger, but are you really attacking the messenger, or are you really attacking the scriptures? Because I've been reading scriptures to you constantly. And to attack me, you have to attack the scriptures first. And that's what you're doing if you want to lay in an attack. What else could I tell you? So I hope I illuminated some of these prophetic things for you. And I'm Moshe, my wife's Rivka. Please pray for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing of our bodies. Pray for our finances. Pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole, and us too. Pray for better videos. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I hope you got something out of this. In almost 3 hours, huh? Okay, you might want to subscribe, because when the eggs start hitting the fan, which is going to be, I'll do a lot of live streams day and night at unusual hours, and you might want to get noticed. And please hit the thumbs up button or the like button so I get better algorithm with YouTube. And I'm out for now. Thank you.